Hello, I'm Dr. Jeanette Raymond, psychologist, psychotherapist, and relationship expert, here to begin a series of talks with you about how ubiquitous triangles are in our relationships. I'm sure you've had the feeling that either one of your partner's exes are kind of looming large in the relationship, so that becomes a triangle, or there's an in-law that keeps interfering, that becomes a triangle, or colleagues become too invested with your partner and there's a triangle there, and it sets up competitions, it sets up fears, it sets up who do you belong to, who's mine, how much of it is mine, what's theirs, how do we kind of pass all this. And they become the hotbed, if you like, of conflict in adult romantic relationships. So I thought it would be really good to start a conversation with you about when the triangles first start and how they come to be so important in our adult relationships. So the first triangle in any human relationships is when mom and dad have their first child. The child becomes the third in the triangle, and what happens is mom and the baby have a very complete bonding sense, and dad usually feels left out. And then they have to make adjustments where dad is included in, and the triangle is more harmonious, and it's not leaving somebody out or keeping two together and shunning the other one, although that does happen later on when the child has to choose to become autonomous. The triangle has to be broken and the child has to set him or herself free. So that's the first triangle, right? And it involves excluding dad with mom and baby in this beautiful haze of love and bonding, and dad feeling left out. And if dad comes in and tries to reestablish that bond with mom, then baby's left out. And if baby and dad have a lot of time together and they have the bonding, and mom is going back to work, like happened with one of my clients who went back to work when the baby was a couple weeks old and dad wasn't working, and dad and baby had the bonding experience and mom was left out. And several years later they are still working on the heartbreak that the child felt on losing the mother to work, and the unspoken, very, very strong bond between dad and son, where mom continually feels left out. So the second triangle comes when the second baby arrives. So now the first baby, who's had mom and dad all to him or herself, suddenly has a new arrival to contend with. And it's absolutely heart-wrenching, devastating, and terrifying, because this first baby doesn't know how to get mom and dad's attention again. Do they exist in their mom and dad's life? Do they matter anymore? Are they still important? Or is mom and dad too busy with the shiny new toy? And so the triangle has been completely messed with, and now there's a new triangle, mom, dad, and the new baby, with first baby being left out. So what does the first child do? Try his or her best to either be a very good girl or a very good boy, to try and get mom and dad's attention, praise, love, recognition, and validation, to try and win mom and dad over again. So any of you who are second in line or first in line will know what that's like, where the first child wants to win back mom and dad and is either a very good girl or a very good boy, or they do the opposite. They become naughty, tantrumy, messy, they regress, they start being even more babyish than the new baby, because they think that's the only way they're going to get mom and dad back to hold them, to give them the same kind of attention that they once had before the new baby came along. So already you can see the existential threats for the first child, the terrible sense of mom and dad needing to keep new baby and have that wonderful bonding experience that they had with the first baby. How do they manage the second one? And mom and dad also, their connection is also torn because they've got two babies. So there's all sorts of shenanigans going on here, and they have to find some way of bringing it into harmony. So one triangle breaks, another one forms between mom, dad, and the new baby. But somehow, if things are going to work out well, mom and dad have to also have the triangle with the first child superimposed on the second child and make it more of a foursome, and that's very, very difficult. And I can't tell you how many patients I have, how many clients come in later in life who are still wounded because when their sibling was born, they were pretty young, maybe, less than 2 years old or even up to 3. The break in that triangle is always with them. The wound is always fresh. If somebody gets ahead of them in a sports race, that same wound is bleeding again. If somebody gets an A on a test and they get a B, that same wound is rubbed with salt again. If their partner later on in life likes another person, even if they don't have any romantic relationship, that person becomes a threat, just like the second baby. So every person in that first child's life, following the birth of the second, becomes a threat to the connection between the mother and father, who of course that child needs to survive. And later in life, that first child has terrible trouble with attaching to make friends, to have a solid relationship with a partner, because they're always afraid that somebody's going to come in and take their spot. And that's exactly what I get told. Someone's coming to take my spot. I just got told the other day that one parent whose adult child is about to get married, that she fears that her in-laws are going to be taking her spot in the ceremony and taking away her right to be a mom. So there's so much of this that she becomes insecure, can't settle into relationships. If her sons make relationships with other women, those women have come and taken over her spot. So these are the kind of terrible traumas that the first triangle and the second baby stay with you throughout life and hang on in there with your friendships, through your educational arena, the breaking up with boyfriends and girlfriends, leaving home, being connected with mom, whatever it might be. And in one case, there's one of my ex-patients who had never left home. She'd had several relationships. She was a professional person, but could never leave home because her mother had another child when she was very young, and she never got over the fact that she felt discarded and rejected because mom was too busy with the new baby and wanting my patient to kind of grow up a bit so that she didn't need so much babying. And she has not been able to leave home because she wants to have that connection with mom, with nobody else there. There are no more siblings there, all for herself, to make up for what never happened. So it's affecting her adult relationships. She can't make good relationships. She's too scared to leave home, and she's unable to fulfill that part of her life. So in all these triangular relationships, there's competitiveness, there's dependency, there's fear of loss, and there's constant rejigging to find that blissful connection when there was just two, before the third one came in and messed everything up and spoiled everything. So this is the beginning of how triangular relationships start and how they stay with us in all our relationships evermore unless they're properly processed and dealt with. So in my next talk, I will give you examples of triangular relationships that involve excluding someone. And they're not always with people, by the way. You can have a triangular relationship, and I'm sure you know of many, where you might be a romantic couple, and the third part of the relationship, the third leg, might be alcohol. Maybe your partner is an alcoholic. So that alcohol becomes the third piece of the triangle, because the alcohol is taking your partner away from you. It could be work. Your partner may be a workaholic. And so the work becomes the third person, if you like, in the triangle. Or it could also be your partner coming home from work and going in the phone and delving into video games and not being available to you emotionally. So the phone and the apps and all that go with it become the third person in the triangle. So I hope this video has given you lots of food for thought, and I hope you look forward to the next set of videos about triangular relationships that exclude or include and how they operate in the adult world. Bye for now. Look forward to your comments.